Welcome to Instant Deck Techs. The aim of this series is to give you a short, concise guide on how to build a certain deck. It won't cover every card, but we'll go through all the categories and go over the types of cards needed to make the deck work. Any card mentioned will be down in the description below. The commander of this deck is Jorn, God of Winter. It is 2 and a green for a 3/3 legendary snow creature god. It has, whenever Jorn attacks, untap each snow permanent you control. It can also be played on the backside as Cowdering the Rime Staff. For 1 blue-black, which is a legendary snow artifact with tap, you may play target snow permanent card from your graveyard this turn. If you do, it enters the battlefield tapped. This is going to be a Snow Matters tribal deck, the aim of which is to use the front side of Jorn to help ramp us out in the early game, so we can then rush out a series of snow-based threats. The backside we can use later in the game to help bring back those threats in case they ever get removed. Where possible, we'll be running as many snow permanents in as many slots as we can. Before going through the more traditional sections of the deck, I want to go over a section that's very important to making the deck work, and that is making it so that Jorn can attack turn after turn. Getting him to do this is what will really help the deck pop off, and let us get ahead of our opponents. Look for cards that either make him unblockable, remove him from combat, give him protection, or in the case of Ohran Frostfang, make it so that our opponents won't want to block him by giving him Death Touch. I'd want to run at least 4 of these effects, as we do want to get at least 1 out, but we don't need to worry about having multiples of them out at the same time. Moving on to ramp, we're looking to run between 8 and 10 bits in the deck. The reason is that we will have some very good mana-hungry spells that we want to get out and hitting as early as possible. We're generally looking for snow permanents that ramp us here, so we can make sure they can be untapped by Jorn when he swings. In a deck like this, all of our basics want to be snow, so they untap with Jorn. What that will mean is that we can put wild growth effects on them to generate additional mana when we tap them. This scales very nicely with Jorn untapping them all, and will give us a load of additional mana each turn. One final card to mention here is that we can also run Cryptolith Rite to help us use all our creatures to ramp. We can tap any snow ones for mana before combat, then when Jorn gets in, it'll untap them, or we can then swing through with our creatures, and then Jorn will untap them, and then we can still use them for mana in our second main phase. For some additional redundancy, we can run some extra effects that allow us to untap our lands. This section could be a little pricey, so if you don't have access to it, then I would skip it and focus more on the snow creatures. If you are running the untapping package, however, then I would want to run these 2 cards, as they will act as batteries for all the mana that we're making, so we can store it up and pump it into a big threat or a big X spell. With all the mana that we're making, we want to run slightly more card draw than a regular deck. I think around 10 bits is a good place to start, especially as some of them will come in the form of decent threats, like Ascended Spirit. I'd want to run as many snow-based ones as possible in this section, with the cards on screen being standouts. For the rest, as we're in Sultai, we'll have no issues finding normal bits of card draw. They don't synergize as well with the snow theme, but they give us plenty of things to do, which is always a good thing. As the back of Jorn lets us play snow permanents on the graveyard, we can also look at things like Windfall to kick off a late game comeback. We're going to want to run the standard 8 bits of interaction. Where possible, run them on snow spells. You're looking for that split of 4 bits of targeted removal and 4 board wipes. After the Snow Matters cards, you can run whatever else you have available to you, which is quite a good selection in this colour combination. A quick note on snow creatures, we do want to make sure there are plenty of them in the deck, as they'll get buffed by some of the other effects that we're running. What I would recommend doing is filling any spots in the curve where you're light with the best snow creatures going. The ones that fit into other categories, however, will take priority. Okay, let's talk about some ways of winning the game. Starting off with Icebreaker Kraken. This is a big, dumb creature that pins down an opponent's board and then lets us hit face like a truck. We'll have no issues ramping it out well ahead on curve in this deck. Next up is Nafi, Betrayer King, and one of the reasons we mentioned earlier about filling spots in the deck with snow creatures, as Nafi does work all up and down the curve, buffing our creatures while being a nightmare to permanently remove. Avalanche Caller may look a little cute, but he can turn an otherwise stable board into a win out of nowhere, as our opponents start taking 4/4 lands to the face. Draga Necromancer takes the best spells out of our opponent's deck and turns them against them. We'll have no issues getting enough snow sources in this deck to fully take advantage of this card. With all the mana that we're making, things like Villainous Wealth, Torment of Hellfire, and Exsanguinate should have no issues in taking out an opponent. A quick aside, I would save Villainous Wealth for playing in person, as theft effects like this can be a bit of a nightmare over webcam. Then let's move on to the classic snow win condition, summoning a Merit Lage and hitting someone in the face. If you're going to run these, then I'd want to consider some land tutors, maybe something like Crop Rotation, just so you're more likely to hit it. Its combination with Thespian Stage also merits its inclusion if you're going this way. Basically, with both in play, you activate the Thespian Stage making it a copy of Dark Depths, which when you do, importantly means it won't have any ice counters on it, as it's already on the battlefield. You do end up sacking both lands, but then you get a huge flying indestructible beater. A more budget option that's still very potent in this deck is Merit Lage's Slumber. With the amount of snow permanents in this deck, this will be a very consistent way of getting ourselves to 2020. Okay, let's talk lands. Unsurprisingly, we want the mana base to be chock full of snow lands, with at least 2/3 of them having the snow type. Depending on when you're watching this video, that could end up being one of the more pricey parts of the deck, as snow lands have tended to creep up in price as their last printing gets further away. Outside of lands we've already mentioned in this video, there's a good selection of snow utility lands with additional effects out there. I would look at running these as our colourless utility lands. Any other utility lands after that, I would want to produce a colour of mana, as after all we are a 3-colour deck, and don't want to be stuck not being able to cast our spells. We're coming to the end on focusing on commanders from Kaldheim, so if there's any others you'd like to see, please let us know down in the comments below. And make sure you subscribe so you can see new videos and deck techs when they go live. Thank you very much.